Howdy folks, welcome back. It's October 16th, 2020, and fall is in the air here in the state of Washington, and along with rain that's in the air. We've got plenty of rain coming down, and I don't mind too much. We had a beautiful summer. It's time to catch up on the rain. Today we have another GIGAPAN picture for you to look at, and also we have another My UFO story, and this one comes to us from Linda in Great Britain. And Linda has been a viewer of mine for probably since near the beginning, which doesn't go back that long. And she's just got a really great story, so I'll look forward to reading that to you here shortly. So here we are in another butte, or at another butte. And if you've been following my channel at all, this is a reoccurring theme. We've seen over and over and over many of these buttes that are nothing more than areas that are completely built up made out of vessels that have come down. And for reasons unknown, in certain areas they come down on top of each other a lot, which created these buttes. I don't understand why these buttes are here. When you have this vast area of flat land surrounding everything, surrounding these buttes, why did they get all stacked up right in one place? Was it just by chance? I just really don't know. I just don't get it. This is quite the balancing act here. We got some pretty big pieces of debris here stacked up on top of each other, just hanging on the edge. I think it'd be pretty interesting to be in the neighborhood whenever that stuff comes down. What an amazing sound that must make. Not unlike all of the vessels that came down whenever that was, millions of years ago, had to be a horrific sound. I can't even imagine what that would be like. And here we have what looks like an orb. We've seen a number of orbs in the past videos, and don't know for sure if it's an orb or a hole that's been punched through to the other side. There's no way to know that. It kind of looks diamond shaped, and it makes me think that maybe that's just a hole from the other side. There's a tremendous amount of erosion that's gone on here in this area, and that's another thing. Some places, for unknown reasons, seem to have more erosion than other places. Does that mean that it gets more wind? I mean, that's the only thing that we have causing erosion is the wind, or possibly solar radiation, and of course, let's not forget gravity. Gravity pulls everything down. Here's a big piece of something. It's obviously broken off. It's got pretty much a right angle break here on the right hand side of it. And I spent a little time trying to figure out where it may have come from above it. And we may have a picture or one or two pictures that will show us where that may have come from. I don't know. And another big piece in the background there. It's got a distinct shape to it. And very often we see pieces laying down on the ground that look like the bridge of these vessels, the superstructure, we'll call it, of these vessels that have come down. It's just like if you've ever seen a aircraft carrier with a superstructure. It's this big, huge vessel with this superstructure attached on it there, and it looks like just like the kind of thing if that thing were to fall down or roll over, that superstructure would just snap right off. And right here in the dead center of the screen is a square opening, and you can see some light in the background, and it looks like maybe this is where that square piece broke off from. And all throughout all these pictures, you'll be able to see where there's the skin of vessels that have been put together in pieces. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. It's just like the way they put ships together. On the hull, they use individual pieces welded. Same thing here. And now, because of all of this erosion, it's starting to well, it really presents itself. The erosion is so dramatic. These individual pieces are really coming down. Okay, I'm going to give you Linda's story now, and here we go. We sold our family home in Longwood, and Roger and I bought individual properties. The moving date was Friday 23rd, October 15th. Excuse me, Friday. Okay, Friday the 23rd, October 15th, 2015. The exchange of contracts did not take place that day, and I had to wait until Monday the 26th before I got my keys. I spent the weekend at my mom's at 2 Station Approach, Hunley in Huddersfield. Mom is 86 and housebound now, and sleeps in the dining room downstairs. I was in the front bedroom, which has 4 windows in a bow shape, which affords a good view of the sky. I believe that it was on the Saturday evening. I went to bed early, around 8:30 p.m. I was watching the sky for a while from my bed. I could see the planet Venus through the second window to my left. It was a clear sky. I did not have my glasses on, but I can see okay without them. My cat was with me, and he jumped up onto his windowsill. I watched him for a few minutes and then saw some white lights in a triangular formation above him. I don't know how far away they were or how high in the sky, but I started to watch them for a while. I kept closing my eyes and then looking again, and the light formation was stationary for some time, perhaps 20 minutes or more. Then the lights seemed to come closer as the object grew larger, and I could make out the lights, and they were in the shape of a triangle. Then the UFO turned to face east, towards Brockholes, Holmfirth. I could see the solid black body of this craft and the lights in a triangular formation on the edges in the middle of it. It moved forward in this formation for a couple of seconds, at first quite slowly, and then it sped off into the distance at incredible speed and disappeared to a pinpoint within a second. I was thrilled to have seen this, as I have been interested in the UFO phenomenon for years now. I would not have witnessed this if I had completed my house purchase on the Friday, so this sighting was a massive bonus. I guess it was. What a crazy thing to see. That's the one thing that we always hear about, is how fast these things are, and they speed away at incredible speed. That's a great story, Linda. Thank you very much. Here we're getting a view of a piece of vessel. Good chance that this may have been a bridge or a superstructure, or it could be just part of the vessel. But you can see how much it is deteriorating. It's just really falling apart. And we don't necessarily see that so much. We've seen some of it in different areas, and you go to another butte and there's nothing quite like that. So why there are these big differences on how things erode is a big question mark for me. And down here, coming down almost the center screen, or right at center, you see 2 things sticking up there. And then to the left of those, is a small vessel. You can just see the cockpit. And if you look at the front of it, that triangular shape there, you'll see that the nose of it has a nose cone that's darker than the rest of it. This is real common, and we've seen this on a number of occasions. And sometimes you might be tempted to think that it's not a vessel, but when you see that black nose cone, that kind of gives it away. And in the background here, we are seeing different levels, once again, of a vessel. So at one time, millions of years ago, people were walking around on those levels. They lived in those ships or worked in them, whatever the case may be. But there are different levels. We'll call them hallways, corridors, I assume that run the length of the vessels. And then when the hull comes off from the outside, it peels off, it reveals these different levels. And then the issue frequently is when these things came down that these levels get compressed, and we don't always see, the perfect view of untouched corridors. They usually are flattened or bent, that kind of thing. Here's a big piece of something. We don't know what it is. It's probably just another piece of vessel. I mean, that's always a good guess, because that's all we have in these areas. And right behind it, there is some more of these levels that we're talking about from a vessel. But look at the size of the piece of debris on top of that. Look at how huge that is. So that comes from a different type of vessel, something much larger, and that debris landed right on top of that little section of the levels there. And up here on top of the butte, you can see how all of this texture, and this texture is what is eroding. And it's quite incredible. As I said, we've only seen this a couple of times to much lesser degree than what we see in this picture. And again, all these lines from left to right, these horizontal lines, are the different levels of the vessels after they've been compressed down. And up on top here, it looks a lot like there's some missiles there, but if they aren't missiles, I certainly don't know what they are. Maybe they're guns, I don't know. And then there's this pointy vessel, or top of maybe it was part of a bridge, but it's obviously heavily deteriorated. The little end of it's about to fall off there, and it's just a matter of time, right? Everything's going to come down eventually. But it's going to take a long time, because we know for sure that this has been several million years sitting like this. So it's got a long ways to go. But it is in the process of coming apart pretty rapidly, I would say. Can see all the individual pieces that made up the outer hull. Some of it's still hanging on there. Most of the hull has come down. This looks like the front end of a vessel sticking out here. Almost looks like it has a big mouth with teeth. Right here, we're looking at the front of a triangular vessel. This is the only part that we can see. And you can see where it was heavily damaged right there. But the rest of it seems to be in pretty good shape. Again, it's just the front end of it, though. That's all we can see, because the rest of it is buried. More of these compressed levels. So coincidentally, I had something on the TV today, and guess who was on there? Maybe it's David, Brandon Burke, talking about the nuclear explosion here. And, there's really no way. I mean, I really don't believe anybody that comes from NASA. He is a scientist, and I thought it was pretty funny, him showing us some pictures of Mars to make his case, and guess what? All the pictures were blurry. Now, really? You have a scientist from NASA, and he's only got blurry pictures to show us? Yeah. Right here, dead center, you can see some of the hull is still hanging on there. And in fact, there's also a deteriorated triangular craft. Can you see it? Coming in from the 3 o'clock position, you see the back end of it. It's all falling apart. And then you can see the remains of the hull. It's the bright area here, the white color. It's hanging on still. And this is also the front end of another vessel sticking out. You can see the cockpit area there. Cockpit, we'll call it a bridge. This is far too big to have what you would call a cockpit. And I don't know what those little bright things are on top. I couldn't get in close enough to see. It's just a question mark on what that stuff is. So was it a nuclear bomb that went off? Well, it's possible. If a couple million years ago, if they were using electronics the same way that we do, then a nuclear explosion would cause a electromagnetic pulse, and all of their electronics would go dead. Therefore, they would drop out of the sky. I don't know if their electronics were the same as us or not, but that's one possible scenario, I guess, of how this stuff all came down at the same time, as opposed to being obliterated by a nuclear explosion. Here's another triangular vessel, and look at all the levels here. So to reiterate, this entire butte is made out of vessels, so it's going to be at one point or another, whether it's exposed or not, these levels are in the butte, and these ones right here are heavily compressed, so we don't get really a realistic view of them. At least we don't know, looking at this picture, what they look like before they were compressed. This looks like the front end of something. Could have been the front end of a triangular craft. They always do get bent up right on the end like that. And this one here, you can see pretty good the black stripes towards the top. Now that thing is not compressed so much on the top. So that's the natural look. That's the way everything would look before it gets compressed. And there is obviously a big hunk of debris up there at the top of this hill with a kind of a hook on it. Who knows what it is, what part of the vessel it is. There's no way to know that. And this very odd looking thing down here, it almost looks like something organic with its tongue sticking out. Obviously, I don't think that's what it is, but very strange. And when you look at the surface here, you can see all the little black specks. This whole flat area here is hull that's deteriorating. And all this lumpy stuff here, same thing. It's stuff that has deteriorated and fallen down and piled up. Do you see how the bottom ground is all has a pattern on it? And that pattern is the remains of the hull. And here's another piece of vessel, something very pointy sticking out. I would be tempted to call it a missile, but it doesn't necessarily look like a missile, except it also has kind of a nose cone on it. Who knows? Very interesting. Not natural. And, who knows what vessel that came off of. Maybe the rest of it is on the other side of the butte on the ground. There's no way to know. Look at all these levels under here. Now we're going to see in other pictures, and maybe we've seen some already, you see these dark rectangular holes. So in these areas, particularly on top of the buttes where these vessels have broken into pieces, you're getting a little bit of a view of the cross section of whatever vessels were on top. And you see these dark rectangles. It's coming up. You see these dark rectangles. Well, these dark rectangles, they're all uniform size, are the hallways or the floors or the causeways, whatever you want to call them, where people and material move through the interiors of these vessels. So just like an aircraft carrier, if you were able to cut it in half and move half away and look at the inside, you would see floors. And this is the same type of thing I'm talking about coming up. And they're a little bit hard to see, so keep that in mind. But you can see them. And here's the end of a vessel that's in the middle of this butte, and it was another triangular vessel that's been broken off. Many of them are. If they're sticking out, they just break right off. I think it's the sun and the time and the gravity, and that metal gets brittle and it just snaps from the weight. Here it looks like another triangular vessel with the nose sticking out. And something down here that they blurred. Something in that picture was just too much for us to handle, so they blurred it. Why they don't blur other more obvious stuff, I just don't get it. What a place. Boy, I wish I could fly a helicopter around there. Well, speaking of that, the next drone is supposed to have a helicopter. The next rover. So that should be interesting. Here's a couple great big pieces of hull in that sandwich material. And then also you can see the different levels of the vessels where the outer hull is fallen down and exposes these the sides of the vessels. You see a big piece of hull sitting there. Hasn't come down yet. Right dead center to the top is another bridge or superstructure that's come off of one of those triangular vessels. And then just a great big piece of something sitting here on the end. It looks like it has the different levels in it, so it's a piece of a vessel that's just fallen out by itself and landed on its end. Here's a vessel that's incorporated into the hillside. Okay, if you look in the dark areas here on the left-hand side where this vessel is broken apart, you can see these dark-colored rectangles that I'm talking about. And right in the middle of the screen, you can see these rectangles. Those are the hallways. Those are the levels, the floors, the decks, whatever you call them. Some of these vessels that we've seen are absolutely immense. I can't imagine being in a vessel that is miles long. Do they have great big, what do they call those belts that you walk on? Like at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. You want to get somewhere in the airport, you stand on one of those belts, and they'll move you along pretty quickly. Is that how they move back and forth in these things? Again, towards the top, you can see levels of flooring there that are not compressed so much. Now, coming in from the 8 o'clock position, you see a black square. That's actually a hole. Again, that's a cross section of a vessel that's broken off, that's left us the hole. If it were lighted, we could be interesting to see how far back in there we could see. But you can easily see where this vessel has broken off. If you come down from the 12 o'clock position, you can see the individual pieces and where they broke. They line up. And right here, from the 10 o'clock to the 2 o'clock, is another vessel. It's all vessels. I mean, should I even mention it? I just don't know. I guess I do it for people who haven't seen this channel before, and there aren't many of those. But I feel like I need to mention this for people who haven't been watching these things. I know it gets repetitive. The thing is, it is repetitive. We see the same things over and over and over and over. The only thing that keeps it interesting is you see new versions and very interesting, very cool looking things, But generally speaking, other than that, everything is the same. Except, as I said before, in this picture, things are eroding apparently at a much quicker rate than other places that we've looked. You can see where it's all compressed and bent. And in white there, that little white thing, I don't know why it's white. It looks like a gun. It's sitting on the top of the remains of a vessel, and that looks like a gun with a turret, but why it would be white in color, I have no idea. The place is falling apart. How many more millions of years will it take before it's all down, turned into sand? It's been more than 2 million years, I know that. It's such a mysterious place. Looks like the front end of another triangular vessel. What a place. Maybe someday we'll all get to go there for vacation. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great day.